Let's talk about the Iran conflict, because something really strange is going on, and it has nothing to do with what's happening on the ground. Nope, this is all happening in the digital world. So today, we're going to try to decode this mysterious shift that has pretty much everyone scratching their heads.
Okay, so here's the deal. That constant stream of information we've been seeing, the videos, the frontline updates that have basically defined this conflict online, well, it's all suddenly dried up. It's like someone just hit the mute button on the entire digital front.
So the big question is, why? Why the sudden silence? An information vacuum like this, it doesn't just happen by accident. It almost always signals that something pretty significant is underway. But the clues are, well, they're subtle. You really got to look close.
And look, this isn't just a hunch. We're seeing some very specific evidence here. Key aggregator sites, places like viralvisible.com, are showing way less new content. But the real kicker? In just the past 24 hours, the taps have basically been turned off. We're talking about official government accounts, and even those individual posters on Twitter who are usually super active, they've all just gone quiet.
All right, so what on earth could this silence mean? Well, to find a potential answer, our first big clue might actually come from another recent conflict, the war in Ukraine. It could be the blueprint for what's happening right now.
Think about it like this. Conflicts often have different phases. They can start out as these high-intensity, all-out sprints, right? You get constant updates. Front lines are shifting like crazy. But then, so often, they shift gears. They slow down and become more of a marathon, a prolonged, grinding fight with more settled front lines and way fewer daily updates. That's the exact pattern we saw happen in Ukraine. Which brings us right back to our central mystery. Is this digital silence a sign that the Iran conflict is making that exact same transition? Are we watching it go from a sprint to a marathon? It's a really compelling theory, for sure. But hold on, because it's not the only piece of this puzzle. Our second clue is just as weird, and honestly, it comes from a completely different world. The global commodity markets. Their behavior lately has been defying all the usual expectations. Let's walk through this, because it's a bit of a wild ride. So, the textbook says when a major war breaks out, especially in that region, prices for things like gold, oil, and gas should just soar. That's the expectation. But what really happened? The complete opposite. These key commodities actually came under pressure. And then, here's the twist. Crude oil suddenly shot up overnight, totally bucking that initial trend. It just doesn't add up. So here's the bottom line. You've got two things happening at once. This strange silence on the digital battlefield. And at the exact same time, you've got these completely bizarre, contradictory shocks in the financial markets. Now, while they don't give us a clear answer, they signal one thing loud and clear: deep, fundamental uncertainty about whatever is coming next. And this all leads us to the final, ultimate question. If the whole tempo of the conflict is shifting, and the markets are this confused, where's all of this actually heading? What is the potential endgame here? Broadly speaking, it seems like we could be heading down one of two very different paths. On one hand, this whole slowdown could be the quiet before a complete surrender, a really decisive end where one side just completely capitulates. But on the other hand, it could be the first step towards a negotiated peace deal, a long, drawn-out diplomatic process where both sides are trying to find some kind of compromise. And that really gets to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? The source material basically puts this question right to us, framing this whole thing as a critical fork in the road. Both of those possibilities are on the table, and right now, the evidence we have is pointing in conflicting directions. So as we finish, that's the question that's just hanging in the air. The digital silence and the market chaos, they're just symptoms. Symptoms of a conflict that's hit a major turning point. But a turning point to where? A swift conclusion? Or a long negotiated standoff? That right there is the big unknown we're all watching for now.